President Xi Jinping begins state visit to Cambodia. U.S. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell says the Fed will be patient in relation to cutting interest rates. And 5 people handed jail terms for ticket scalping at Coldplay concerts. Hello and welcome to TVB News. I'm Melissa Hekalea. President Xi Jinping is now in the Cambodian capital for a 2-day state visit, wrapping up his Southeast Asia tour that has already taken him to Vietnam and Malaysia. Danny Zhou has the story.
President Xi Jinping's chartered flight that brought him from Kuala Lumpur touched down in Phnom Penh on Thursday morning. Xi stepped out of the plane and attended a welcome ceremony held by Cambodian King Norodom Sihamoni. As he traveled from the airport to meetings with leaders, Xi was cheered by crowds lining up to display national flags and banners expressing best wishes. Hailing the time-honored friendship between the two countries in a written statement, Xi urged for a stable and sustainable China-Cambodia community with a shared future in the new era. He called for synergy between the Belt and Road Initiative and the Pentagonal Strategy, while advancing their mutual political trust to a higher level. In a video address, Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Manet noted the two countries are at the highest level of comprehensive strategic partnership, with praise for China's pivotal role in Cambodia's development. He said he looks forward to discussing with Xi to chart a course of action for future cooperation and shared benefits. A welcome letter for Xi's state visit was also posted on local media by Cambodia's Senate President Hun Sen, father of the current leader and a former state leader. The Southeast Asian nation is eyeing more cooperation with China, including infrastructure development. China is a close partner to Cambodia and its largest creditor, having poured billions of dollars into road and airport projects. Meanwhile, Cambodia has been slapped with U.S. levies of 49%, one of the highest globally, amid the fog of trade war initiated by the Trump administration. Xi has called on Phnom Penh to stand with Beijing on opposing hegemony, power politics and protectionism. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
U.S. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell says the country's central bank can stay patient on interest rates, which will remain at 4.25 to 4.50%. He said the Fed will wait to see how tariffs and other economic policies of the Trump administration play out. Volatility in financial markets since President Donald Trump announced sweeping tariffs on April 2nd has led to speculation that interest rates will be cut to calm investors. Nazvi Karim with more.
Last month, U.S. President Donald Trump went on social media urging the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates to help ease the impact of his widespread tariff policies. But Fed Chair Jerome Powell is not budging, saying the tariffs are higher than expected and he was willing to wait on its impact. Early April saw the U.S. impose sweeping import tariffs on goods from most countries, hitting China particularly hard, only for Trump to hit pause on many of the levies to allow for negotiations. The financial markets don't know what to expect next, and Powell sent a warning that Trump's tariff policies would hurt the U.S. economy.
These policies are still evolving, and their effects on the economy remain highly uncertain. As we learn more, we will continue to update our assessment. The level of tariff increases announced so far is significantly larger than anticipated, and the same is likely to be true of the economic effects, which will include higher inflation and slower growth.
Stocks in the U.S. fell after his remarks, and reports indicate many investors are bracing for a possible recession. Before taking office on January 20th for his second term, Trump vowed to bring down inflation and fix an economy that he said was broken. But prices are likely to rise as a result of the tariffs.
Tariffs are highly likely to generate at least a temporary rise in inflation. The inflationary effects could also be more persistent. Avoiding that outcome will depend on the size of the effects, on how long it takes for them to pass through fully to prices. We may find ourselves in the challenging scenario in which our dual mandate goals are in tension.
Despite Powell's stance, reports have emerged of some splits in the Fed's 19-member interest rate setting committee. Fed Governor Christopher Waller said he expected the impact of even a large increase in tariffs to be temporary and supports cutting rates sooner if the economy slows. But other Fed officials are more focused on fighting the effects of higher tariffs on inflation and are less likely to support rate cuts anytime soon. Nazri Karim, TVB News.
Japanese negotiators are in Washington to argue their case against higher U.S. tariffs. U.S. President Donald Trump joined in the first round of bilateral trade talks between the two nations. This as Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni arrived in the U.S. Capitol for her tariff talks with Trump scheduled today. Tracy Furness reports.
Japan's top trade negotiator, Economic Revitalization Minister Ryose Akazawa, urged the U.S. to reconsider all tariffs on Japan during a meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. Following the talks, Akazawa said he had stressed that tariffs imposed by Washington on auto, steel and aluminium, as well as the 10% baseline measures applied to all trading partners, were regrettable and that he had pushed for a full review. Japan's Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba said, "It will not be an easy ride," but President Trump said the negotiations with Japan are his top priority, adding, "We agreed to continue discussing on a ministerial level while monitoring the process. I would like to visit the U.S. to discuss with President Trump at the most appropriate time." Meanwhile, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni arrived in Washington Wednesday evening ahead of a scheduled meeting with Trump today. She will be the first European leader to have a face-to-face with Trump since he announced and then suspended tariffs of 20% on European exports. Meloni is travelling in her role as Italy's leader, but she has been in close contact with EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen ahead of the trip. The US president may be feeling increased domestic pressures to settle any tariffs as many voters say they returned him to the White House with the goal of improving the economy. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
5 people who were suspected of concert ticket scalping at a recent Coldplay concert in Hong Kong have been sentenced to 3 weeks in prison. The 5 mainland suspects were found guilty of breaching conditions of stay at Kwun Tong Magistrates Courts. The concert took place at Kai Tak Sports Park last week. During the 4-day event, police discovered some online claims which said people could enter the concert venue by using a special document. Authorities have prosecuted 1 person for conspiracy to defraud. Police arrested 6 people on suspicion of conspiring to defraud and deception after more than $20 million was scammed under the government's special 100% loan guarantee. One of the companies involved is linked to online media firm Channel C. The loan scheme was launched during COVID-19 to alleviate the financial burden on small and medium enterprises. Mimo Singhai reports.
Sources say one of the companies involved in the fraud case is Artfield Media Production, the parent of online media entity Channel C, which is accused of scamming about $9 million. Under the government's special 100% loan guarantee, a company can receive a maximum loan of $9 million if they can prove their revenue dropped by 30% compared to the previous quarter. Police on Thursday said 4 companies had scammed more than $20 million by using false documents or accounting. Sources say the owner of Artfield Media Production Limited had transferred funds to their affiliated company's bank account 3 months before they applied for the loan scheme. They then stopped the transactions, creating a false scenario that revenue dropped sharply. 2 other companies were alleged to have forged documents such as bank statements. Apart from Channel C's parent company, other firms involved are in the technology and logistics industries. The force arrested the 6 suspects on Wednesday. It is now looking into the flow of funds and does not rule out more arrests. Mums 9, TVB News.
Online shopping scams have become increasingly common in the city. Last year, police recorded some 11,000 online shopping fraud cases, marking a 30% rise from 2023, with total losses increasing by nearly 90%. Among the cases, a woman was defrauded of nearly $1 million in 1 month when buying concert tickets. Samantha Lee has the story.
Despite efforts to educate the public about how not to fall prey to scammers, fraud cases are still on the rise. In 2024, police received nearly 12,000 online shopping fraud cases, marking an increase of nearly 30% year-on-year. The amount of money lost soared by 87% to $350 million, with an average loss amounting $30,000 per case. 15% of the cases were related to fraudulent concert ticket sales. The largest case took place between April and May last year, when a 40-year-old woman initially lost $300 while trying to buy a ticket through a Telegram chat group. She was later contacted by a scammer, impersonating as a staff member of an entertainment company, persuading her to buy tickets at a discounted price. It turned out to be a scam, with the woman losing nearly $1 million within a month. Another common type of scam involved fake Facebook pages. Police said potentially fake pages have a similar interface with the authentic pages. But the fake ones are usually created recently, with page administrators from various countries forging positive reviews. Scams also appeared on online sales platform Carousel. In this case, swindlers posed as buyers and asked sellers for their email addresses. The scammers would then send sellers a link to a fraudulent payment platform. Sellers were required to enter their bank account information, which allowed the swindlers to steal their money.
Whenever the public you would like to trade off some high amounts or luxury products, especially involving check, you must really pay attention. The trading conducted in this way is actually person to person, without any insurance or without any assurance protected by the third-party platform. So it is actually very risky.
The police said they would discuss with the Hong Kong Monetary Authority and banks about expanding the use of Scammeter, which will help to scrutinize suspicious bank accounts. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
A bus collided with a road barrier on Kings Road in North Point. A city bus airport bus had its front part damaged after crashing into the road barrier. At around 6 p.m., the bus, which was heading towards the airport, hit the road barrier outside the Metropole building in North Point. The bus was suspected to have gone out of control while trying to pull away from a private car. The bus driver suffered an injured hand. Because of the accident, part of the lanes on Kings Road were temporarily closed. The government plans to adjust the fines for 20 traffic penalties this year. In a Legislative Council document, the government says most of the fines for traffic violations haven't changed since 1994. To enhance deterrent effects, authorities propose to increase the fine for illegal parking to $400. The maximum fine for speeding could be raised to $1,500. While drivers who fail to follow traffic light instructions could receive a penalty of $900. Authorities also propose adjusting the parking meter fee from $2 to $4 for every 15 minutes. Still ahead, West Kowloon Cultural District teams up with City Bus to improve transportation. Hong Kong General Chamber of Commerce postpones U.S. trip amid the tariff war. And China to invite all 193 United Nations members to attend informal Security Council meeting about the U.S.'s weaponization of tariffs. Welcome back. The West Kowloon Cultural District said it welcomed 1.9 million visitors during Art March when a series of art-related events were held. The West Kowloon Cultural District Authority said it will cooperate with a franchised bus company to strengthen transport services to the cultural hub. Samantha Lee reports.
To reach the West Kowloon Cultural District, you can either take a taxi or MTR, existing from the Kowloon or Austin stations. In terms of land transport, KMB and Green minibuses offer circulating routes. But some residents said there was room for improvement in the district's transport system. This woman said the distance between the MTR stations and the cultural district is quite far, and she was not too familiar with the bus routes. To address the issue, Betty Feng, Chief Executive Officer of West Kowloon Cultural District Authority, today announced a cooperation with Citybus. She said because of more mega events in the future, transport services must be strengthened to cope with increased passenger traffic.
We'll develop this into an expansion not only of the bus services and the routes, but we also develop it much further, where we have co-marketing and co-producing of our products. And we can also increase the awareness of bus routes and the cultural district through improving wayfinding and signage across the streets. And of course, this makes the whole experience much more accessible.
With the Golden Week just around the corner, fare discounts will be launched next Friday. Street performances and bazaars will also be held at the district during the Easter and Labor Day holidays. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
The 4-day Easter break starts tomorrow. However, some people have already started their holiday today. The departure hall at the West Kowloon station was packed with travelers this afternoon. They came prepared for a long weekend. The station deployed staff to manage the flow of people. The schedule board showed tickets for most trains had sold out. The Immigration Department earlier said the number of inbound and outbound passengers using land boundary control points would peak on Friday and Monday, with roughly 759,000 and 618,000 people traveling respectively. The Hong Kong General Chamber of Commerce has decided to postpone its trip to the U.S. until the second half of the year. The chamber explained the decision was because of the ongoing tariff war. A chamber delegation was originally set to travel to the U.S. on the 24th of April. Lawmaker Jeffrey Lam, also a chamber member, said the trip was supposed to include visits to Washington, D.C., New York, and Dallas to meet with local business and political representatives. Speaking about the sudden suspension of the trip, Lam said the uncertainties regarding U.S. trade policy would make exchanges more difficult. China will invite all 193 United Nations members to attend an informal Security Council meeting next week to criticize the U.S.'s bullying practice of weaponizing tariffs. Chinese officials also said they're open to consultation with the U.S. on an equal footing. Danny Zhou has the story.
In its latest escalation of the trade war, the White House has confirmed that some Chinese imports are subject to a 245% tariff in America because of China's retaliatory actions. The threat was dismissed by the Foreign Ministry in Beijing, which said in a statement that China will not pay any attention to the tariff numbers game. Meanwhile, China will invite all 193 United Nations members to attend an informal Security Council meeting next week to blast the U.S.'s bullying practice of weaponizing tariffs. Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson Lin Jian said China supports the international community to discuss and deepen the understanding of the harm caused by unilateralism and bullying. On Wednesday, China reported a better-than-expected economic performance fueled by strong exports, with a 5.4% GDP growth in the first quarter of this year. State Council officials made it clear that growth will not be affected by the U.S. tariffs. In another development, the Governor and Attorney General of California on Wednesday announced a lawsuit to challenge Trump's authority in imposing the sweeping tariffs. They accused Trump for abusing power and inflicting financial harm.
Congress hasn't authorized these tariffs, much less authorized imposing tariffs only to increase them, then pause them, then imminently reinstate them on a whim, causing our nation and the global economy whiplash. Trump is attempting to override Congress and steamroll the separation of powers.
The officials emphasized their aim is to protect local industries, particularly agriculture, given that California is the largest manufacturing state in the United States.
No state is poised to lose more than the state of California. So that's our state of mind. And that's why we're asserting ourselves on behalf of 40 million Americans.
Danny Zhou, TVB News.
Egypt's revenue from the Suez Canal for 2024 plunged because of the wars in the Middle East. It generated an annual revenue of almost $4 billion last year, down from a historic high of $10.25 billion in 2023. On Wednesday, the Suez Canal celebrated Excellence Day. It commemorates the refloating of the Ever Given, a colossal container ship that crashed into a bank in March 2021, blocking the waterway for 6 days and disrupting global trade. Shipping has been disrupted after Yemen's Houthi rebels started threatening vessels heading to Israel through the Suez Canal. Around 10% of world trade flows through the canal. A little more than 13,000 ships passed through the canal in 2024, marking a 50% decline from 2023. That's the news. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.